I can still do a lot of the things I did as a kid. I won't ride a motorcycle, a horse, or ski down a mountain, but I'll do almost everything else. And I'm still here. He dated the president's daughter and was investigated by the FBI, but that wasn't even his biggest scandal. At 855, George Hamilton finally talks about the $12 million that went missing from his bank accounts, the secret health crisis that almost killed him, and the shocking truth about why he really moved back to Palm Beach. From KFC commercials to cancer scares, Hollywood's most mysterious playboy is finally ready to tell all. George Hamilton was born in Memphis, Tennessee on August 12, 1939. His father, George William Spike Hamilton, led an orchestra that traveled across the country. His mother, Lucille Stevens, was a Southern socialite from Beeville, Arkansas. Their life was glamorous, but their marriage was troubled, and in 1944, Spike had an affair with a singer in his band, leaving Anne to raise their children alone. Anne moved her family to Baton Rouge by herself, where George spent his early years with his grandparents. Life there was peaceful, full of Southern charm and stability, but in 1947, both grandparents died suddenly, which changed everything. Anne, who was now struggling to support her children, made a brave choice. She flipped a coin to see if they would move to New York or Hollywood. The coin landed on Hollywood, so she packed their bags and headed west, hoping for a new start. George's life in Hollywood wasn't stable. He got married and divorced several times, which meant that he constantly moved between cities like New York, Boston, Beverly Hills, and Palm Beach. He went to elite boarding schools, military academics, and private institutions, getting used to new places over and over again. These experiences shaped his personality. He learned how to charm people, fit in, and stand out when it mattered. By the time he got to high school in Palm Beach, George already had a natural confidence. During his senior year, he discovered his love for acting when he starred in a production of Brigadoon and won the title of Best Actor in Florida in a statewide competition. That moment changed everything for him. He realized that acting wasn't just a hobby, it was his future. In 1957, just before graduating from high school, he made a decision that would change his life. He returned to Hollywood with the goal of becoming an actor. It wasn't easy. He lived simply and took on small roles wherever he could. His good looks and charm quickly caught the attention of casting directors. Soon he was on TV shows like The Donna Reed Show and The Adventures of Rin Tin Tin. He was just getting started, but Hollywood was already paying attention. In 1959, when he was only 20, he got his first major role in Crime and Punishment, USA, which was based on Dost's novel but moved the action from 19th century Russia to the 1950 Santa Monica. Hamilton played Robert Cole, a law student who kills a pawn shop owner and struggles with guilt while a detective closes in on him. It was a tough and intense role. For a newcomer, Hamilton played the part with both confidence and vulnerability. His performance was so good that he won a Golden Globe for Most Promising Newcomer and was nominated for a BAFTA for Best Foreign Actor. Critics compared him to Anthony Perkins, who had just become famous in Psycho 1960. They had the same look and dark screen presence, which worked in Hamilton's favor. Hollywood was always looking for actors who could follow in the footsteps of rising stars, and his resemblance to Perkins helped him get the part. Some critics liked the film's noir-inspired cinematography and jazz-infused score, while others thought it strayed too far from the original story. But one thing was clear: Hamilton had made an impression, even though the movie had a small budget. It showed he could carry a film as a lead actor. Before moving into Hollywood movies, Hamilton gained experience on TV. In 1958, he appeared in The Veil, a supernatural series hosted by Boris Karloff. Production problems kept the show from airing, but it later gained a following. Hamilton played different characters in eerie, suspenseful stories, which gave him a chance to show how versatile he was. Around the same time, he also appeared in The Donna Reed Show, a popular family sitcom. It was a completely different genre, but it helped him gain confidence and exposure on screen. Then he came home from the Hill in 1960, directed by Vincente Minnelli. The movie was about a wealthy but troubled Southern family, and Hamilton played Theon Hutt, the sensitive son. The film was about a young man trying to find his place in the world. It was a coming-of-age story with family problems, expectations, and heartbreak. Hamilton's performance captured the struggle of a young man trying to find his place in the world. The film was a critical and commercial success, and working with stars like Mitchum and Evan Parker pushed Hamilton to prove himself. Minnelli had seen Hamilton's talent after watching Crime and Punishment USA and thought he was the right choice for the role. Hamilton into a Hollywood heartthrob, but more importantly, it showed that he had acting skills to back it up. He wasn't just another good-looking guy. He could give complex characters depth and emotion. His resemblance to Anthony Perkins continued to be a double-edged sword. It helped him get noticed, but it also meant that he was constantly compared to Perkins. Some critics thought he wasn't as intense as Perkins, but they did praise his charm and screen presence. Hollywood often tried to fit actors into certain types, and Hamilton didn't fit the bill. In the 1960s, George Hamilton's rise to fame was sudden and unexpected. His big break came with Where the Boys Are in 196, a movie that captured the angst and rebellion of young Americans. The movie followed 4 college girls on a spring break trip to Florida as they explored love and changing social norms. Hamilton played Ryder Smith, a smooth Ivy League student who wins the heart of Dolores Hart's character. The movie wasn't just a hit. It started a trend that thousands of students followed, started going to Florida for spring break, making it a tradition. The movie's title song, sung by Connie Francis, became a huge hit, adding to its influence. Hamilton wasn't just an actor anymore, he was a symbol of sophistication and charm. 2 years later, he played a more serious role in Light in the Piazza 1962. It was a love story with deeper emotional layers. Hamilton played Fabrizio Norelli, a young Italian who falls in love with an American tourist played by Iet Mimu. However, her character had an intellectual disability which made things more difficult. The movie asked if love could overcome the problems it created. Hamilton's performance was heartfelt and sincere, showing that he was more than just good-looking. Critics praised his work, even though the movie didn't do well at the box office. Filmed in Florence and Rome, the movie gave Hamilton the chance to play a more complicated role. It wasn't his biggest hit, but it showed he had the acting chops to play serious roles. By the late 1970s, Hamilton's career took a sudden turn. In 1979, Hamilton played Dracula as a stylish vampire who had to move to New York after being kicked out of his castle by communist officials. The idea was silly, but it worked. Hamilton played Dracula with a mix of charm and self-awareness, making the character both funny and oddly likable. His famous tan stood out against the traditional pale vampire look, adding to the humor. The film was an unexpected hit, making over $44 million despite having a low budget. Hamilton's performance earned him a Golden Globe nomination, showing that he could make people laugh as easily as he could play a romantic lead. Some critics thought the humor was uneven, but the movie gained a cult following. Hamilton continued his comedic streak with Zorro the Gay Blade in 1981. This time he played 2 characters, Don Diego Vega, the legendary Zorro, and his flashy twin brother Ramon, also known as Bunny. When Zorro gets hurt, Bunny steps in and plays the part in his own dramatic way. Flashy clothes and theatrical moves made the movie a mix of action and humor. Some critics thought the jokes were too based on stereotypes, while others thought they were clever and ahead of their time. The movie didn't make as much money as Love at First Bite, but it earned Hamilton another Golden Globe nomination and showed that he wasn't afraid to take risks and play with his image, even though he was successful. Hamilton had problems throughout his career because his good looks made Hollywood cast him as a charming playboy, which limited the roles he could play. He turned down the part, but he didn't let that define him. He showed signs of his depth in Light in the Piazza and later shocked everyone with his comedic performances. He also worked behind the scenes to produce Evil Carnival, a biopic about the famous stuntman, in 1971. This was another example of how he took charge of his career instead of waiting for the right role to come along. Hamilton joked that he was a third-rate actor but a first-rate con man, but the truth was that he knew how to change and stay relevant. Besides being a Hollywood heartthrob, George Hamilton was also a survivor in a business that forgets about its stars as quickly as it makes them. His life was full of high-profile relationships, political intrigue, and financial scandals that kept him in the news for decades. His relationships weren't just about love. They often had deeper connections to power and influence, which makes his story one of the most interesting in Hollywood. In 1966, Hamilton started dating Linda Bird Johnson, who was the daughter of President Lyndon B. Johnson. Hamilton was 26 years old and Linda was 22. From the start, their relationship was a show. They went to the Oscars, Megra, and even went on vacation to Acapulco. Hamilton spent Easter at the LBJ Ranch and was a guest at Linda's sister's wedding in Washington, D.C. The public saw a beautiful couple, but President Johnson had serious concerns. Johnson saw Hamilton as a smooth talker with an agenda that he wasn't being honest about. He was skeptical and wanted proof, so he asked Supreme Court Justice Abe Fortas and FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover to look into Hamilton's background. They looked into everything from his personal life to his military record. There were rumors that Hamilton had avoided the Vietnam War draft by saying he was financially responsible for his family, but investigators questioned this since his mother was living comfortably in Beverly Hills. During a visit to Johnson's Texas ranch, there was a strange event that stood out. The president handed Johnson a repartee. No one was sure if giving Hamilton a gun on a hunting trip was a friendly gesture or an attempt to scare him. The relationship didn't last long. By 1967, Linda had moved on and married Marine Corps Captain Charles Robb. But Hamilton never really left the Johnsons' family circle. He stayed friends with Linda and even went to her wedding more than a decade later. Hamilton then started dating Emelinda Marcos, who was married to Philippine dictator Ferdinand Marcos. They met in 1979 when Hamilton was promoting his movie Love at First Bite. Imelda and Hamilton became fast friends. Imelda is said to have helped fund Hamilton's projects. Years later, shocking court documents showed that more than $1 million in stolen Philippine funds had been sent through Hamilton's accounts and used for many things, such as buying a mansion in Beverly Hills and paying for a film project about General Douglas MacArthur's love life. Hamilton said he returned $500,000 to investigators found that a lot of the money that went through a Hong Kong bank connected to Marcos Associates ended up back in the hands of the Marcos family. Hamilton was named as an unindicted co-conspirator in a racketeering case, but he denied any wrongdoing. He said that his relationship with Imelda was only social, and he even said that she saved his mother's life by inviting her to the Philippines after his brother's death. However, investigators thought that Elda had a lot of power over Hamilton's money. Hamilton had more relationships with powerful women than just her. Over the years, he became known as one of Hollywood's most charming playboys. He once said that no one in Hollywood had dated more than him, and his long list of relationships seemed to back that up. He was linked to at least 4 Miss Worlds and some of the most famous actresses and socialites of his time. He had high-profile relationships with Elizabeth Taylor and Alana Stewart. His marriage to Alana Stewart in 1972 was anything but normal. They got married in Las Vegas with Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis Presley's manager, as the best man. 2 years later, on September 30, 1974, they had their son Ashley, George Hamilton. Their marriage looked perfect, but by 1976, it was over. Most divorced couples go their separate ways, but George and Alana stayed close for almost 20 years. They even co-hosted a talk show together called George and Alana, the mid-1000s, 990s, and showed how playful and affectionate they could be with each other. Their chemistry was undeniable, showing that their relationship had never really ended. They had gone from being husband and wife to best friends, which is very uncommon in Hollywood or anywhere else. Their son Ashley grew up in the entertainment business and followed in their footsteps by becoming an actor. In 1993, he made his debut in Beethoven's Second, and in 2013, he was in Iron Man 3. His personal life, on the other hand, was full of problems. At age 19, he married actress Shannon Doherty. He was married to Ilana for 5 months, even though he had problems with addiction and eating disorders. Eventually, he found stability through comedy and music. Throughout all of this, George and Elena were always there for him, supporting him no matter what. In the late 1990s, George started dating swimsuit model Kimberly Blackford, and even though they never got married, they had a son named George Thomas Hamilton Jr., who they raised with their parents. He went to Admiral Farragut Academy, a military school in Florida that both his father and half-brother had also attended. Even after George and Kimberly broke up, they stayed committed to raising GT together. As he grew up, he became interested in politics and leadership. He and his father formed a strong bond, full of humor and mutual respect. George often called raising GT his second chance at parenting and was very proud of his son's achievements. While Alana remarried rock star Rod Stewart, George and Alana's relationship stayed strong. George stayed close to Alana's family and even became a father figure to her children from that marriage, Kimberly and Sean Stewart. Over the years, there was talk of George and Alana remarrying, but they decided they had the perfect arrangement as it was. They talked every day, shared meals, and supported each other no matter what. George Hamilton has always known how to turn his image into. When his acting job started to slow down in the late 1980s, he found a way to stay in the spotlight. He started the George Hamilton Skincare System and Sun Care System, a line of exfoliating scrubs, facial masks, and overnight replenishing gels. These products were marketed as all-natural and hypoallergenic and were made for both men and women. At first, they were only available through mail order, but soon they were sold in department stores. In the late 1980s, concerns about skin cancer were growing and the tanning industry was under a lot of pressure. But Hamilton had built his public image around a golden tan. So instead of pulling away, he leaned into his salons, which promised safe tanning solutions like after-tan skincare and sunscreens, along with traditional tanning beds. It wasn't just about selling products, it was about selling a lifestyle that matched Hamilton's own. This move kept him in the public eye. His brand wasn't just about movies anymore, it was about an idea of timeless, sun-kissed elegance. This made his next change feel just as natural. In 1997, Hamilton turned another personal passion into a business. He had smoked his first Cuban cigar in Havana when he was 17 years old, and he never stopped loving them. That year, he opened Hamilton's Cigar Lounge at the New York Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. It wasn't just a place to buy cigars, it was a full-service cigar lounge. There was a private room in the lounge called the Club Car that was made to look like a fancy train car and had red velour couches. The lounge had a custom cigar menu with 15 blends under Hamilton's name, and servers carried double guillotine cigar cutters for the perfect finish. Hamilton didn't just put his name on the cigars, he worked with master blenders to make high-quality products, like Hamilton's Reserve, which had Connecticut wrappers and Dominican fillers with hints of coffee and chocolate. As a nod to his Hollywood career, some cigars had fun names like King George and Zorro. For a while, the lounge was a hit, but by early 2000, the cigar bar trend was dying down and competition in Las Vegas was growing. The lounge closed, but it had served its purpose. It was another perfect extension of Hamilton's image as elegant, indulgent, and timeless. Then, in 2016, Hamilton surprised everyone with his most unexpected role yet. He became Colonel Sanders. KFC had been running a campaign where different actors took turns playing the part. As the famous fast food icon, Hamilton was chosen to promote KFC's extra crispy chicken. The ads were funny. He wore the classic white suit, but kept his deep tan to show that this version of the Colonel had spent a little too much time in the sun. It was the perfect mix of self-awareness and showmanship. The campaign was a hit, and KFC brought him back in 2018 for more commercials. Younger viewers liked the playful twist, and longtime fans liked how Hamilton was able to accept his own image. In the meantime, George Hamilton found a new way to entertain people when he started reality TV in his 60s. He proved that charm and humor could get him just as far as talent. In 2006, he joined season 2 of Dancing with the Stars, paired with professional dancer Edyta Slawinska, and quickly became a fan favorite. His moves weren't as smooth as the younger contestants, but his personality made up for it. One of his most memorable performances was a dance based on Zorro. In honor of his 1981 comedy Zorro the Gay Blade, he wore a mask and swung a sword on the show. He made it to the 6th round before being eliminated, even though he was hurting his knees. His time on the show wasn't just about the competition. It was about how he carried himself, always funny and lighthearted. 3 years later, in 2009, Hamilton took on a different kind of challenge. He joined the UK version of I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, and went into the Australian jungle. He handled the strange setting with the same sense of humor and class that he brought to everything else. Fans thought he would win, but on November 30, he surprised everyone by leaving on his own. He had joined for fun, not for the prize, and he left the same way he had come in, on his own terms. Aside from reality TV, Hamilton continued to make guest appearances on scripted shows. In 1975, he starred in an episode of Columbo called A Deadly State of Mind, a psychiatrist who used hypnosis to commit murder, showing that he could be both sophisticated and evil at the same time. He returned to Columbo in 1991 for the episode Caution, Murder Can Be Harmful to Your Health, this time as a crime show host who killed a rival. His smooth personality made him perfect for roles where charm hid something darker. Even decades later, Hamilton still stole the show when he played a charming older man on the sitcom Two Broke Girls in 2016. Even though he was only in one episode as a murderer, Hamilton made every role memorable with his quick wit and comedic timing. In 2015, he went one step further by starring in his own reality show called Stewarts and Hamiltons, which aired on E! And followed his blended family, which included his ex-wife Alana Stewart, their son Ashley Hamilton, and Alana's children from her marriage to Rod Stewart. It wasn't just about fame, it was about family. Hamilton came across as a father figure with effortless charm and someone who knew how to enjoy life no matter what stage he was on. The show only lasted one season, but it gave fans something they had never seen before, a real look at the man behind the Hollywood image. During his career, Hamilton had played many roles, but in Stewart's and Hamilton's, he wasn't acting, he was just being himself. George Hamilton has spent decades perfecting his acting skills. His signature tan, but years of sunbathing eventually did a lot of damage to his health. He started tanning early and never stopped. He used sun reflectors long after most people stopped using them. He spent hours in the sun and even used tanning beds to keep his golden glow, but the damage was too much to ignore over time. After multiple skin cancer scares, he had to have surgery to remove cancerous growths from his forehead and ear in 2024, and a problem during the surgery put him in the hospital for 4 years. After an unexpectedly popping suture, Hamilton finally switched to safer tanning alternatives. Now, instead of relying on the sun, he uses auto-bronzing creams, including one he once sold on QVC. His decision is part of a larger shift happening around the world as more people become aware of the dangers of UV exposure. He went from being one of the last celebrities to use fake tanning to an outspoken advocate for sun safety. Looking back, he admits that a tan may look good, but the risks are too high. Beyond his change in skincare, Hamilton has also become more concerned about his health. He avoids sugar, which he says is the worst thing a person can eat, and his meals are mostly organic green beans, colorful vegetables, and omega-3 rich fish. He bases his diet on the Mediterranean diet and research into longevity, believing that food is the key to staying energetic. Every day he drinks smoothies with kale, goji berries, almonds, and bananas to stay healthy. He makes sure he gets all the nutrients he needs by not eating any processed food. He also fasts 4 times a year, sometimes for as long as 9 days. He thinks this helps detoxify his body and keeps his organs strong. On top of that, he takes a lot of supplements such as vitamins E, C, A, D, B complex minerals, CoQ10, fish oil, and melatonin. This routine has helped him keep his mind sharp and his skin smooth, even though he is getting on being in his late 80s. Palm Beach, where he spent most of his teenage years going to Palm Beach High School and learning how to get along in high society. His mother was a socialite and his father was a society band leader who introduced him to an elite world where charm and style were just as important as talent. As a young man, he frequented Green's Pharmacy and even ran into John F. Kennedy. He later said that Palm Beach was both a prep school and a finishing school, teaching him how to be a good citizen. He learned the skills that would make him famous in Hollywood. Now that he's back, he's joined the social scene just like he did before. You can often find him at Swifties at the Colony Hotel, a historic spot that famous people like the Duke and Duchess of Windsor visited. He looks great in well-tailored suits or bright sweaters from Worth Avenue boutiques, and he fits right in with the glitzy crowd. During lunch, he entertains his guests with stories from his time in Hollywood. Some locals have even suggested he run for mayor, but he laughs it off. People think he doesn't care about politics and just wants to enjoy life. But even at 855 years old, Hamilton isn't just thinking about the past. He's getting ready for a one-man show that will tour the US and Europe. The show will feature the best parts of his career from movies like Home from the Hill, 1960, and Light in the Piazza, 1962, to his roles as Hank Williams, Evil Condoval, and even Colonel Sanders in KFC commercials. True to his style, he plans to include a lot of humor and share personal stories and behind-the-scenes moments. Fans can look forward to stories about his early days teaching ballroom dancing and the time he drove an old Rolls-Royce just to look good when money was tight.